Real life planning scenario. I'm turning 70 this year. I'm married. I've got $1.4 million saved up in pre-tax accounts. Is it too late to do a Roth conversion? I've got that answer and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. All right, real life financial planning scenario going on right now. And really it has to do with, should I do a Roth conversion? Is there an age at which it's too late? I shouldn't do it. Now, you know, pre-tax retirement accounts and Roth, they both have advantages. When you're contributing pre-tax, whether that's normal, pre-tax 401k, traditional IRA, when you make a contribution, it's a deduction on your tax return that year. Therefore, the money that you contribute isn't taxed today. Within the account, all the activity is tax sheltered, so capital gains, dividends, all that sort of stuff is just captured in there, doesn't land on your tax return. And then when you pull the money out of that pre-tax retirement account, as long as you are age 59 and a half and so on, then there's no penalty, but you have to include it as income on your tax return when you withdraw the dollars. So say you've been saving up all along, blah, 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 and then you retire and you start pulling out $2,000 a month from your IRA. Well, $2,000 a month, that 24 grand is going to land as income on your tax return as ordinary income. So pre-tax in, tax sheltered, and then taxable when it's coming out. The Roth is basically the exact opposite. There's no tax deduction when you contribute to the Roth side of your 401k or to a Roth IRA. There's no tax benefit today. So essentially you would do this if you say, well, I'm in a small tax bracket, I'm in a low tax bracket today, or I think I'll be in a higher tax bracket in the future, or I think tax rates are going up in the future. So don't get a tax benefit today. All the capital gains, all the activity is sheltered, again, all along. And then when you withdraw the money from a Roth, the growth comes out tax-free. And the contribution that you made, because you never deducted it, that's not taxed again. So basically it's after tax in and then no tax on the way out. So you can see they both have their merits. If you're in a high tax bracket today while you're working, typically pre-tax will make sense because, and I was just meeting with some folks just yesterday where we had this scenario where I showed them, they were in their mid 70s, 74, 73, and I showed them that they're still in the 12% tax bracket. And I said, you remember us contributing to your 401k when you're in the 25 and 28% tax bracket? And he said, yeah, this is incredible. He's pulling it out in the 12% tax bracket. It's fantastic, right? So that's where pre-tax makes a lot of sense. Roth, though, can make a lot of sense as well. If out there in the future you think you're going to be in the same or even a higher tax bracket, then you may want to consider Roth. Both have merits. When you have already contributed and you got pre-tax dollars, but you find yourself in a tax position where you say, yeah, not that I want to pay more tax, but I'm actually in a pretty low tax bracket this year. And maybe I know these pre-tax dollars I'm going to have to pay tax on at some point. Maybe I should pay tax on them now and move them over to my Roth. That's a Roth conversion. And we do that a lot with lots of folks. You've got to consider it and consider, well, am I in a low tax bracket this year? If so, my contribution should be Roth. But further, should I take pre-tax dollars and move them to Roth? Done lots of videos on that. You've got to do that with white gloves. You've got to be very careful because there's some traps that you can find yourself into, but work with your CFP on that. So that's all groundwork, because here's the planning scenario. I'm turning 70 this year. I'm married. I've got $1.4 million saved up. It's all pre-tax. And we've got about $75,000 worth of Social Security and pension income. And so I take a little bit out of my retirement account to live on, but I've got pretty good income. But I've got all this money that I'm going to have to pay tax on. Is it too late for Roth conversions because I'm already turning 70? The answer is no. It is not too late. In fact, you've got possibly several years to do Roth conversions, but certainly for the next 3 years. And here's why. The Secure Act 2.0, the Secure Act 1.0 moved required minimum distributions from the age of 70 and a half until you've got to start at age 72, the year you turn 72. Well, Secure Act 2.0 moved it to 73. So if you're turning 70 this year in 2023, that means you are free to do Roth conversions without even need to worry about an RMD. You can still do Roth conversions after you start your RMD. You've just got to take your RMD first and then do do Roth conversions after. But you don't even need to worry about that the year you turn 70, so 2023, the year you turn 71, so 24, the year you turn 72, so 25. So not until 2026 or 3 years from now do you even need to worry about RMD. And that's why I would argue this is really not too late at all. This is the sweet spot because you can be calculated, planful in your approach right now and help minimize what your required minimum distribution is going to be 3 years later, right? Because the more dollars right now that you shift from pre-tax IRA to Roth IRA, the lower your total IRA balances, your pre-tax IRA balances will be by the time you start your RMD, meaning the lower your required minimum distribution will be. So really the question isn't, is it too late? The question is, how much should you contribute? So a couple of thoughts, how much should you convert? So a couple of thoughts with that. Number one, do you in this scenario, if you're married and that's those are your income sources, you're probably in the 12% tax bracket. So the question is, should you do Roth conversions up to the top of the 12% tax bracket? Or should you go up to the top of the 22% tax bracket or 24%, right? You've got to make that decision doing some proactive tax planning, a couple of years of tax projections, work with your certified financial planner on that. If you are going up to the top of the 22% tax bracket or into the 24, you've got to be aware of IRMA. Now, income-related monthly adjustment amount for your Medicare Part B and Part D. If your income, adjusted gross income, is above certain levels, modified adjusted gross income, is above certain levels, then you've got to pay more for your Medicare Part B, Part D 2 years later. So the prior year rule, that again is for a different video. And so you've just got to be aware of that. I've had people where we do Roth conversions right up to that IRMA limit, but not too close because we don't want to be a dollar over, and that's the threshold. I've had others who say, no, I think the market's low, I think I'm in a low tax bracket, I will volunteer to pay 24% on this money, and I'll pay a little extra IRMA for a year to get this converted. And guys, I've seen both previously in my career where they've both been right. So there isn't necessarily an exact right answer because we don't know the future in your situation, right? But the question isn't, is it too late? The question is, how much should you convert? Now, a couple other considerations that you've got to think about. And number one, my first thought on this is, all right, well, what's the cost of doing no conversions? Well, the cost of doing no conversions is that right now, this couple says they really don't need much from their IRA. What a great situation to be in, great planning there. But they're going to be forced to draw out a certain amount, a required minimum amount, 3 years from now, when he turns 73. So what's that amount going to be, and what will your tax picture look like? That's the base scenario that you've got to first start with. And assuming no growth on that 1.4 million, your RMD is going to be more than 50 grand. And therefore, 50 grand on top of your current income sources, what tax bracket does that put you in? Right now, that puts you in the 22% tax bracket. But if they let the tax brackets and tax rates and current tax laws sunset, you're going to be in the 25% tax bracket, maybe even 28. That's your base scenario. That's the perspective you need to have. And it's not you, your CFP should have that proactive thinking there. And therefore, that certainly suggests if you know you're going to be in the 22% tax bracket and you'll be there for the rest of your life because your Social Security is not going down or going away, your pension's not going down, and its required minimum distribution will be there every year for the rest of your life. Therefore, you're going to be in the 22% tax bracket or higher forever. I would convert into the 22% tax bracket for these 3 years, and I would do this multi-year tax projection to see how much should I do, is it worth paying any IRMA or not, and what would it look like? If I convert 50 grand a year over the next 3 years, does that make a dent in that RMD? Do I need to do 100 grand 1 year, or what happens if the market drops again? Should I do more? Those are the considerations. The other thing you need to consider is if in this scenario, it seems unlikely that you're going to use up all of this $1.4 million in your lifetime since you're barely spending it right now. You've also then got to consider, well, what happens when this $1.4 million passes on to the next generation when you pass away? Because of the new 10-year rule, if you pass away and you've got kids and the kids inherit this, they've got to withdraw the entire account within 10 years. There's no question. And that 10 years is likely during their career. And therefore, would that put them in the 24% tax bracket, 32% tax bracket, and that is another way to frame, well, how much should you convert right now, and how much should you convert? You can see lots goes into this, guys, with just one simple question, and all of it deals with your cash flow, deals with your, your estate planning, like we just talked about, obviously deals with your tax plan, your retirement plan, your investment plan. You've got to take a comprehensive approach to your financial life to answer just this simple question. Work with your CFP on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, contact one on my team. Find us online, CoreHorn.com. That's CoreHorn with K. WiseMoneyShow.com. You can find us there as well. Or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.